Welcome to the second installment of Dystopia with myself, Dr. Fraser MacDonald, also known as Actant when I'm DJing. Techno has a close, almost organic relationship with the cosmos. References to space, cosmic processes, and parallel worlds have always been central to techno, and there is even a branch of the genre called space techno or sci-fi techno. Why is techno fixated on the cosmos? The answer, I think, is the fact that the cosmos is the abstract space par excellence. It is a field of vast, energetic potential that is actualized or worked out in all of the real planetary worlds we know. To align with the cosmos through increasing musical abstraction is thus to approach the field of primordial forces that underpin life. Today we will be talking with Belgian producer Carmelo Ponente, an outstanding talent in the world of deep, immersive, scientific techno. From my perspective, his soundscapes are a vivid illustration of how techno transcends ordinary definitions of music. Techno is not even really music at all. It is actually sonic metaphysics. You heard that right. Techno is metaphysical. It is a window onto the fundamental, most encompassing parameters of existence. According to many philosophical systems, from continental Europe through to various Eastern cosmologies, there exists an abstract field of potential energies and capacities that orchestrate the development of life as we know it. The fluid convection of magma inside the Earth as a dynamic field of flows, temperatures, pressure, and material that finally generates our mountain chains, earthquakes, and continents. The neural plasticity of the brain that eventually takes the form of mental patterns and habits. The wide biological potential of a species that dynamically generates forms tailored to specific environments. The total capacities of our bodies that become crystallized as culturally specific manifestations of gender. The artist's techniques, knowledge, and emotions that are realized in the single painting. In all cases, there is a diverse field of potential that through a process of actualization becomes definite concrete entities. The examples provided show that this virtual sphere is not separate from, but totally embedded within the forms of life it generates. Everything that exists as a concrete entity, including ourselves, also carries within it a massive range of creative potentials, some of which are being realized, and many of which remain dormant, waiting to be activated when required. From a philosophical point of view, the key is to move, or rather descend, from the level of concrete forms of life towards the world of circulating potential and intensity that support them. To strip away the coded, organized, patterned, territorial elements of life and expose the raw, energetic framework that lies beneath, and as far as possible to participate in that structure. It is here that techno takes on its metaphysical character. How can we compare the music of Dua Lipa to Jeff Mills, for example? How are they actually different? One has melodies, voices, lyrics, syncopation, choruses, themes, a vast world of organization. The other literally has none of these elements, is only a field of potential music. Its sounds are not fully formed or locked into definite musical motifs and registers. Patterns exist, but the sounds they are made of are always being carried off, escaping, always on the brink of completely exiting the track itself. Techno is music that has been stripped of its earthly, societal characteristics and tipped toward the encompassing field of energy that underpins all life. So, to dance to techno is to partially dissolve one's own being, to leave the constituted world and touch, even lightly, the world of forces that design all life. When techno introduces organizational elements, like vocal hooks, groovy bass lines, melodic features, song structures, and so on, it begins to lose this abstract character, and as such moves away from this universe of potentials, flows, speeds, and pressures, and therefore also loses its revolutionary potential. Techno as a sonic form must be as abstract and non-musical as possible. It should be unrecognizable and indescribable. When someone tries to denigrate techno by calling it nothing more than a repetitive beat, we should actually celebrate. So the music of Carmelo Ponente, I think, perfectly encapsulates cosmic techno. A Belgian with Italian heritage, Ponente is a cosmic cartographer whose productions map out the depths, pressures, light, darkness, distances, and vastness of the universe. Personally, when I listen to his music, it brings to my mind an array of abstract images that approximate beams of light, movement through space-time, eruptions of energy from within the earth. Fundamental, encompassing, powerful. Ponente is a relative newcomer to the scene, having released his first track on Spanish label SUBSIST in July 2021. The growth of his sound since those initial forays has been immense, with his output now exhibiting a textural richness, balance, and uniqueness that has caught the attention of the world's premier techno selectors. His productions have also graduated to highly respected outlets too, with recent EPs featuring on top-tier European imprints such as New Rhythmic, Lupaina, TMM, as well as Lacaille's Solitaire. As he now shares with us in this interview, it is not always easy to find a geographical home as a proponent of such deeply abstract music.
Sometimes I'm just feeling I'm not in the right country, because the techno here is more like what you can hear in Amsterdam, in Berlin. I like that too, because the quality is good actually, but that's more a groovy techno. Sometimes a bit melodic, and my techno is a bit darker and more about textures, and the techno in Belgium is more straightforward, if you see what I mean. That's not the techno I'm doing. So sometimes I'm just I have that strange feeling that if I were in Spain, or perhaps I don't know, perhaps my style could fit a bit better with the scene. But I'm happy because I joined an agency a few weeks ago. I will see what they will bring to me. I don't know. We will see.
And like your sound, I mean, just following on from what you're saying there, you're totally, like, I really agree with you. Like, the Spanish sound is very unique and really experimental and really open-minded.
Exactly.
And more about textures, atmosphere. Like, is that something that you consciously designed, or is it that's just how it happened?
That's a good question. Actually, when I started doing techno a few years ago, I'm not producing for like 10 years. I'm producing seriously. My first track was on SUBSIST, I think 4 years ago. I think something like that. And I love to do research on my machine, and I can spend hours on just tweaking the knobs without any purpose, if you see what I mean. I'm just having fun, and I break the rules all the time when I patch my machine, and I see what happens. And sometimes, you know, I'm all about happy accidents. Most of the time, I'm shit at doing that note, that's A sharp, and I don't care. I'm just trusting my ears, and I don't have something in my mind exactly. But what I know is I search of textures, if you see what I mean. I'm most of the time, even when I have a sequence, I need to get immediately the big picture of the sequence with a lot of texture and effects, and that's my starting point. I never start a track with the drums. Never. Drums are not very important to me. If you listen to my tracks, there are not so many drums. Percussion, yes, I love the percussion and I love the texture, but I'm not that kind of guy who will put claps, snare, ride. Even now, I'm trying to put them. But yeah, it's all about texture, and I'm just experiment and I see how it goes.
From what you're saying, it's almost like with your techno, you're not really making music. You're more like creating like an atmosphere or an image, an image of space.
Exactly. And then when I have something that when I close my eyes and I can imagine being played in a club, then okay, I know I have something. And then I build from there, and I slowly build stuff and I add stuff. Most of the time when I do a track, I do a loop. Most of my friends on the scene do track or big jam of 30 minutes, I don't know, and then they just cut the parts. And no, my brain can't handle that. I'm working with every elements, and then I record elements by elements. And then when I have a loop, and the loop sounds good, then I start to build the track. It's quite different than usual. But that's how I work. If the loop sounds good, the track will sound good to me. I think the opposite, it's not that easy, because when you do a big jam with a lot of movement, you can have a part that sounds good, but then 1-2 minutes later, it can sound a bit messy, a bit muddy.
Yeah, it sounds like a more kind of simple methodology. Exactly. Like you focus on the core of the track.
Exactly, and that's how I can my texture, because I focus elements by elements, and I try to get the most of the texture elements by elements. And it's like you have one element and then you combine with another one, and you play with the texture and play with the effects until they really play good together. And then from there I start to add something else. Most of the time I see where I can put some frequencies, because sometimes the higher frequency are very busy, and then I say, okay, I won't put something there. I will put something on the middle frequency and the low frequency, and then I'm trying to find a sequence or something in that range. And then if it works, that's perfect, and then I can add and I can move on.
With your music, it does. The sound of the music, as well as the way that you title your tracks, it does suggest a kind of deep philosophical approach to the music. Quite a lot of references to, space and, scientific processes. Is that a key part of your approach to the music?
Yeah. I love science first. I love science. When I was kid, my favorite courses were physics and mathematics, and I love them. And then when I do a track, I try to listen the elements until the elements bring something to my mind. It can be a feeling, it can be a sensation, it can be something weird sometimes. And then when I have that feeling, I stop and I try to write what I have in my mind at that moment. I'm not trying to think too much about it, because then it loses the essence of it, if you see what I mean. I'm also a big fan of tornadoes. I know.
That's interesting, because your music is pretty wild.
I'm a big fan, and one of my plans is to go to the USA and do a chasing tour. If you see
Yeah.
Because I'm obsessed by them since I'm like 10 years old.
Really?
It's part of my love of science. I don't know, but I love them. And every track has its own story, and every element on the track is there for a purpose.
The way you're describing it, it's like the music has like a relationship with things that happen in nature.
Exactly, most of the time. The EP on Lupeina also was a reflection about myself. No sappiamo nulla. Which
means we know nothing, right?
Exactly. That's the truth to me. We know nothing. We think so, but we know nothing. Some of the EP has its own story, and the one for Lupeina was very something special to me. The approach was very dark. I think the tracks are dark, and the remix was dark, even darker. So I was very happy, and I have something very special with them coming in early next year. But something very special to me. Next year will be a lot of releases. This year I'm feeling that I have to search a bit my sound. And then I'm trying to do a lot of work between the family and work, doing a lot of tracks lately. that will see the light end of the year. I can say that I will have an EP on Illegal Alien. I didn't announce it yet, so you're the first one to know it.
Okay, good. Exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive. that network shit. But yeah, I'm very happy to release on such a label. That's for the end of the year. It will be a split EP. It's a good artist that I really love, and so I'm very happy working on it right now.
Following on from what you're saying in terms of the evolution of yourself as a producer, like, I think you said the first EP you did on SUBSIST was 2021, and listening to that first track, and like, I mean, I've listened to it, and then you compare it to your sound now. Like, I mean, the first stuff is really good, but you can really see how much your sound has evolved, like sonically, and also in terms of the structure and engineering of the tracks. I mean, they just sound so much more colorful. I mean, you started with like, a track on various artists' compilations, and now you're doing your own, you're doing your own EPs now, which is cool. Like, so how has that like journey been for you?
That's a very good question. Actually, when I started to produce, I wasn't very confident, and I'm still not confident with my sounds, to be honest. And to me, that's part of the evolution, because if you are confident, how can you evolve? So when I did my first track and I got a request from label, I was like, oh my God, they like my work. So yeah, okay, let's do that. But to me, it's very important to make a full EP, because there is a story. And that's why now sometimes I'm saying no to the various artists, because I need to be more focused on EP. And then when I put my track out on SUBSIST, I had a lot of requests. I was very surprised. Actually, the first track was very surprising, because even Dave Clark played it on White Noise, and I was speechless, because when I was young, most of us, I was fan of Dave Clark. So
yeah, he's like a techno god.
Exactly, man. Even for me now, the god is Oscar Milero, but
okay, for many people, I think.
He's definitely the best. And then I produce a lot, because I had one child at the time, so I had more time to produce, and then I produce a lot. And then that's it. All the label contacted me, and then Rhythmic, Joton contacted me, and I had like 4, 5, I don't remember, 6 track ready, and he said yes in a few minutes. So he said me, okay, let's do that, and the EP was done.
Yeah, that the new Rhythmic EP is like really, really good. That was actually the first time that I heard your music. The sonic symbolism and magnetic induction, those tracks were just like, whoa.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yes, I was again very surprised by the audience. I got so many messages and support, and I was very, very happy, because when you put the track out, it's a bit dangerous, because people can like the track, or perhaps they don't. But I was very happy, and Joton did very good work. The mastering was very good. In club they sound very cool, but I never played my tracks, even now. I never played a track of mine. If you listen to the podcast, I never played a track of mine.
Oh, why is that?
I'm not that confident with my work. Perhaps it can sound a bit stupid, but I think it's not easy for an artist to like his own work. I don't like my track that much, to be honest. I love working on them, but then when they are finished, I'm like, okay, great, that's cool. Now, but I'm working on the live. I got a lot of requests lately if I had a live prepared, and sadly it's not, because I didn't know what kind of process I will do live with the machine, hybrid live set. It was a big question, and I decided to finally take one direction, and I'm working on it. A big part of my of my journey that is starting now, because I really want to do a live set with the octatrack, playing the stem in a DJ style, but also putting my Buchla system on stage and having fun with a good basis, but also with happy accident with a modular system.
I mean, like you're talking about, I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times about finding a new sound. How do you see that? Like, is it do you think about it as creating a totally new sound or just developing your existing sound?
For now, chasing new sound is by new processes, new way to sequence, new tool to do the process, by not using the same plugin every track, and also by listening to a lot of different kind of techno, and even not techno. You can be inspired by a lot of tracks and not only techno, and you find something very interesting that you want to create in your own universe, if you see what I mean. And also, when you work with the same machine for years, that's a good thing because you have your own sound signature. But doing the same thing, doing the same kind of sound, doing the same kind of tracks, it's good because it's your identity. It's very important. But I think you can do a lot of different tracks with your own identity. For now, I'm doing a lot of sci-fi, techno, but you can hear the texture on the background. That's my own way to work. So that was a very fun process to me lately, to combine different styles that I love, but having the same foundation. And it's like, I want to do something else, but I keep doing what I love doing. That's the research of the texture.
I've done a mix of your music, and when I was doing the mix of the music, I realized that many of the tracks were 129.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I don't even have to change the pitch. And
yeah, exactly.
Why? What is for you? What is appealing or attractive about that tempo, that 130, 129 speed?
You will see that lately the BPM is higher.
Yes, I did. Yeah. On that last EP, it had gone up a few beats.
Yeah, it's more nervous. I think that's because I loved to... When you play a track very fast, to me, the sounds don't have the time to breathe. And when you let a bit of space between sounds, to me the magic can happen. And that BPM when I was in the studio was the perfect BPM when all the sounds can interact with each other. I don't see myself going lower but when you do a track with a lot of tension, a lot of texture, and with a big filter that open, and a lower BPM is crazy good.
Yeah, true.
When stuff goes too fast, I think that's not the same sensation.
You lose the space.
Exactly. And my kind of techno is not about note. It's all about envelope and the sound and evolution during the track. And the lower I was producing, the better I had that feeling. And for now, I think I'm a bit more nervous, and I want to do more clubbing tracks.
Makes me wonder too about your approach to music and the relationship between your music and clubs. Are you designing your music for the dance floor, or are you just designing music that happens to work on the dance floor, or how do you see the relationship between your music and nightclubs?
I'm building track for clubs only a few weeks/months ago. That I was doing a techno that can be listened, and that can be, you can be lost by listening to them. When I were in the club and I listened to the track, I was like, no, it's not for the club. People went crazy, and I was very happy, but I didn't have that feeling that the track was for the club. But now, and that's perhaps I increased the BPM. I really want that my track go to the club, really.
And maybe like a final question is, what do you have coming up in the coming months? And
I think I can announce, but I will announce it in the coming few weeks. We'll have my first records that will see the light early next year. I will announce the label very soon. I have another one that will see the light mid of next year. The one that will see the light in early next year will be a split record.
Yeah.
And the second one will be an album. Yeah. And I have a digital release end of the year with Illegal Alien. And I have another one planned early next year for Occur Records. I don't know the real.
Like with your sound, because I'm just thinking like, if you do like an album, for example, you have more room to explore different music. Because your sound has this, sci-fi, spacey vibe. Like, have you ever thought about doing ambient stuff?
Ambient is very, very important to me, and I'm creating ambient at home, but then I never put something out, except it was for, I don't remember, for SUBSIST, I think, my EP on SUBSIST. There is a track with just texture and sounds and evolution, but without rhythm. And my dream EP is one intro, one outro with very texture and sound design, and that's it. And then you do 2 or 3 tracks techno oriented, and that's it. That's my EP.
Okay, I want to thank Carmelo very, very much for participating in this episode of Dystopia. I super enjoyed learning about his musical philosophy, and I hope you all enjoyed learning a bit about that as well. Now we will go into a mix that I have curated of his music. It'll be about 30 minutes, and I've selected a range of his music that I hope you will really enjoy. So thanks for listening, and see you next time for more analytical and philosophical perspectives on techno. Bye.